Alright, I'm going to make the game res version now. There's a couple of things I need to do in ZBrush, and then it's mainly going to be Maya work, just to kind of edit the mesh that I'm going to get from the I think I'm probably going to use a second sort of subdivisional level, as it's a sort of happy medium between super low res and sort of next gen kind of mesh. So yeah. It's loading back up. Right. I have decided to make a full sort of combined mesh, as in that it's all going to be attached legs and wires and stuff. I'm not going to have separate legs, just because I think it'll look better, you know, being lower res and stuff. You can get away with it in ZBrush when there's just so much happening polygon wise. So first thing I want to do is to access this low res version down to the second one. I think that's a decent amount of polygons. It needs editing though. There's a lot of unnecessary, you know, areas and stuff, and can probably follow the topology around its back a little bit better. But I think that's a pretty solid starting place for the low res. Yeah. So to save time, I'm gonna just duplicate that. I'm gonna delete the higher and lower. So I'm left with this. Now I'm gonna export that out. Make a new folder. This game res. And these are going to be the sort of low res. I'll just call it low res start, and we'll save that as the Scrab body, and we'll delete that, so you won't need that anymore. And we are going to need both legs. Same again, see a second subdivision level, so it's on a similar sort of par. Okay. Just, duplicate that. I'm using Control Shift D to duplicate and export that out as the Scrab front leg. No, just not in these spaces. Okay, do his back leg now, and delete the lower and higher. Scrab back leg. Can delete you. Hopefully that wasn't the get rid of you. Now the last thing I need to do is a bit of decimation. Shit. It's gonna take it a few minutes. So I got really itchy face today. I don't know what it is about my skin. Do you know the skin like below your eyes? Sometimes I get like pretty harsh breakouts and it gets really sort of dry and itchy. I'm not quite sure why it does it, but it's really irritating. So I'm just gonna process this current one. It's probably gonna take it a few seconds to think about it, as it is 10 million polygons. Quite a lot of polygons, to be honest with you. Usually I only work about with like 5 million. So, you know, 10 million just for the body alone is pretty high. Yeah, it's gonna project pretty nicely. Don't want to touch it. I know if I start clicking, it'll go all not responding and all that stuff. Yeah, should probably just pause this while it does it, but I just don't even want to alt tab out of it, you know. Yeah, but making gamers versions is it really does depend on how good your sculpt is, really, you know. Because the information that you get for the gamers model is all coming from the sculpt. Because there's a program I'm going to use called XNormal, and if you've read into sort of Zbrush and how you get textures out, you'd probably be familiar with stuff like ZMapper and stuff like that. But I find that working with XNormal is a lot simpler, and it's just, I don't know, it just seems to be a lot easier to use, and the results are quicker and faster, and there's just, I don't know, it's just convenient, even though it does require you a little bit more setup kind of things to do, as you know, in ZBrush you just build a retop and then project all your stuff on there when you've got the UVs on there, whereas using XNormal requires you to build your model, and then you've got to export out the fullest sort of the heaviest version of your sculpt, and then project it inside the XNormal program. So there's a tiny bit more work involved, but I feel like it's a bit better, and I've always used it. So yeah, and it's just starting to do it now. That's terrible. 5%. Sorry about this. I just didn't want to touch my computer at all because I knew it'd like trip out and probably just like depower and everything will just be lost. So yeah. I think once this is done, I'll explain what I'm doing and I'll just do it instead of you can just, you know, laboriously watching me do this thing over and over again. But basically all I'm doing is, like I did when I was exporting for, to do the projection stuff, it's pretty much the same as that, but instead of bringing it back into ZBrush, I'm going to bring it into XNormal, so it's super similar. But once I've decimated this, I just export it, and I'm going to decimate the rest, and then I'll export the 10 million version of this out, just as it is, as an OBJ. So that's pretty much it for this step. Yeah, I'm gonna try pause it. Yeah, cool. Alright, so I'm gonna do that, and then will be Maya and stuff, so yeah, sorry about the waste of time. Yeah. Okay, I've just sort of like started to retopologize the game version. It's coming along okay. I've got the legs and stuff combined. There's still a few issues that I'm sorting out. There's a lot of unnecessary geometry, like around his knees and stuff like that, I'm trying to optimize it as best as I can, but for now I've got the body. I'm quite happy with his torso area and pelvic region, so I'm just going to test this out now, test project it basically. I don't know, I just like to see where I'm at, with my projections and textures and stuff. So what I'm going to do is just going to use the little plugin here called Zbrush, which is basically an unwrapping plugin for Maya. If you just Google that, you'll find it pretty easily. It's really useful for doing stuff like this. and I'm just going to start to pick out, you know, the sort of border areas where I want to sort of create seams for my texture. Just thinking about, you know, where I want it to go, what areas wouldn't, you know, be as I don't know, less affected if there was a big seam there for them. So I'm not sure how this is going to sort of react like. So I'm going to have to separate the legs anyway, so just going to put in a seam going around this part as well. But the cool thing about doing tests is it sort of gives you an idea of what to expect later down the pipeline, you know, in terms of what these you know, what needs to be moved. Projection is pretty, you know, like we saw in Zbrush, you know, there's a couple of problem areas sometimes, so it's like I now know to know that I need to clean up the edges of these legs. You know, it's not very, it's a bit random, so I'm probably going to do that after this projection. I'm just going to come down this sort of area here, which has looped round, which is weird. Seems to have got it, and I'm just going to actually I'll delete that out after. Do the same with this one. Bring it all the way down. I know I select. Got to be careful about selecting random lines everywhere, otherwise it won't work. Right. So that's going to cut off. I need to figure out where I want to stop this front piece. You know, I'm just going to. If it's going to unwrap it like that, I'm just going to leave it as it is for now. No, actually, I don't want to. I'm not sure if I should do it from the front or not. It should be quite obvious. Maybe from the sides. It's maybe a little bit better. But then it's more seams, so there's that detail coming down from the back of it. I'm just going to do it from one side. No, actually. We'll try it from the front, because it does have a bit of a dip in the middle. So it could work. And we'll see what that gets us. I'm going to create a seam all the way up the back now as well. And I'm going to mirror those edges across, so we have them both sides selected. I'm just going to unwrap that. It's probably going to be some weird results, but everything's looking okay-ish. Just need to get rid of these bottom things here. I'm just trying to find out what this bit here as well. Must have been a random bit. Okay, and if this ever happens, like in Maya, just select a new material. Not quite sure why it does that. It's a bit weird. I'm just going to select the border edges again. Select current seams. And unwrap that. Oh yeah, so I need to find that triangle that's selected. If you've never unwrapped before, it's going to be pretty sort of weird. It's going to take you a couple of times to get used to it. There we are. Let's get rid of that. Press unwrap again. It seems to be looking okay. It's good enough for a test. I'm going to probably have to fix these areas up a little bit to make the seams a bit more sort of smoother and less noticeable. Just gonna pull these around a little bit. So this back plate needs to be a bit bigger. This is quite a lot. So you need to sort of figure out your scaling, you know, between the pieces that you're getting. So the detail is sort of all on the same level, if you understand what I mean. Like some areas aren't going to be pixelated and stuff like that. It just takes a bit of fiddling around sometimes. But it's like I was saying though about only doing one leg. You know, I've got 4 legs on here now, so it takes up quite a bit of space on the texture. Even though I am going to be texturing in 2K, so I've got plenty of space, but yeah, it's space that essentially could be saved, if you know what I mean. But that'll do for a test anyway. This is how I project things onto low res polygons. I export this one out because that's got all the information on there, the UV maps that we've just applied. It's coming out of my Scrab folder, game res, and we're just going to make a new folder called test. I'm just going to type in test torso. Alright, cool. So all that needs to be done for Maya, and I'm going to open up a program called XNormal, which I swear I had on here somewhere. Oh well. I've forgotten who publishes it now. I'll know it when I see it. It's this one. XNormal 64-bit. I'm just going to pin that back on. Cool. I'm just going to open that up now. XNormal is totally freeware. If you just Google XNormal, you'll find the website for it. Download it for free. There's a couple of tutorials on there about how you use it and the different functionalities in XNormal if you never really sort of baked stuff in before. But under this low definition mesh tab, basically just means low poly, which I'm using for the game res, which is the lowest form of this. Game res, test torso, and I'm going to scoot over to these normals. Now, the normals in the context of 3D is pretty much how the edges of these polygons behave. How it's sort of differing between hard surface and soft surface. So if I soften the normals, which is basically these 2 buttons in Maya, harden, soften, you can see that it gets rid of all that hardness and like distinction between the edges. If you don't change this to, if it works, to average, which basically means soften, you'll get all the harshness from these lines in your map. So always make sure you've got average normals on the low definition meshes. And now I'm going to add in the Zbrush models, the absolute highest version of them with all the detail on them. Highest res, yeah. I had a bit of a problem with when I was exporting out the highest version of the torso, because it was 10 million polygons. My computer kind of just died, so I had to go down to the second subdivision level, which was about 2 million polygons. The detail is ever so slightly lost a little bit. There's probably going to be a tiny bit of pixelation, but you probably won't be able to notice it when it's being applied to this model, so I'm not too fussed about it. I'm just going to add the legs in as well. I'm just going to keep the normals as they are. I think they'll project a lot better. I just have to pause it there. But right, we've got all these high res models loaded in. We've got this low res in. I'm just gonna try just leave the normals as they are, because you know they looked good in Zbrush, and Zbrush doesn't do anything with the normals. There's something I need to do. Yeah, make sure these are ticked, because I exported. If you polypaint your stuff in Zbrush and you export them, it has all the polypaint information on there, which is awesome. And if this is ticked, it ignores that, so you can just get out a the normal maps and the ambient occlusion maps. So I'm going to get those first by leaving this ticked. Here we come to the baking options, and I want normals and I want ambient occlusion. This was ticked from a last bake that I did. This is the polypaint kind of bake. So I'm going to untick that because I obviously don't even have it optioned. I'm just going to change where this is going to. I'm just going to call it Scrab test 001. Let's save it as a JPEG. Don't know if I should just do it 1K. We'll do it at 1K. It's only a test. 2K. It's going to take considerably longer to do the ambient occlusion map in a 2K, but it's once you click that button, it's going to go through each model, each high-res model, and it's going to begin to process them, and then it'll begin to do all the calculations and projections and whatnot. It takes it like a minute or something. It's reading its legs. It should do. It shouldn't do that. Okay, that's pretty cool as an error. Because what that meant when it came up there is it doesn't support n-sided faces. Means that there's a couple of faces on my mesh that are more than four-sided. I really can't bother to skim through it all. I think there's a way in Maya to sort of do a selection that shows you, but I really don't remember. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate that, Control D, and I'm going to go to Mesh, and I'm going to go to Triangulate. And with that triangulated version, I'm just going to export that back out and save that as Test Torso 002. It's got the same UV maps, it's just being triangulated, so it should be exactly the same. And I'm just going to import that back in. I don't know, it's just some weird thing. It doesn't. You have to have either triangles or four-sided, otherwise it trips out like that. But however, that should fix the problem. So average normals, yep. Let's see if that's fixed. Don't worry about if it does say it's got five-sided faces, because when you hit triangulate, it will solve it, because it goes through and it connects all the polygons up and makes them to triangles. So it'll give it a bit more, and it's gone through there, no problems at all. And it doesn't really matter as well, because your model inside a game engine is going to be triangulated anyway, because that's how game engines work. But the map looks pretty good, it looks pretty clean. I can't see any problems from this distance away. I can see some slight overlapping here. All that is if I zoom in, that problem will probably be the fact that these areas are quite close to one another. So what it's doing is, when it's projecting around this sort of calf area here, it's actually starting to pick up some of the detail from up there, because it's so close together. It'll probably be inside here, where it's really close. But for something like an area such as that, the underside of a knee, I can just paint that out in Photoshop, so you won't notice. Nothing major. Probably like most game models have problems like that, so don't stress out if it's an issue like that, unless it is an area of your model that is pretty openly visible. But yeah, I'm not going to stress out about that. It's on the inside there. You can see the ambient occlusions where it's all dark. Simple painting out procedure. And now I'm just going to grab the colours by unticking these, so it's not going to ignore them anymore. And I'm going to untick this, and I'm going to go to this Bake High Polys Vertex Colours. and generate. Whilst it's doing that, I'm going to load up the texture maps that I got in Photoshop. I'm not quite sure where these turn to. Here we go. So closer look at these, see what's going on. Look at the normal map actually. Yeah, I've had this problem millions of times in the past. It's just when, especially on things like fingers, if you don't separate the fingers out on the maps, and it's like, yeah, you sometimes get this problem where the fingers are uber close to each other. But other than that, everything looks fine, looks good. Detail looks to be accurately representing what I had in Zbrush, so I'm really pleased with this so far. And that could be an issue. We'll see how it looks when we put it on. Yeah, it looks, actually that's in the inside, isn't it? Yeah, that won't be a problem, it's hardly visible. But I'm just going to wait till these colours come through. There we go, it's looking pretty nice. I'm going to grab these colours and I'm going to take you through a little bit of 101 compositing for textures. Let's add some multiply. Yeah, the ambient occlusion is going to give you all the darkness areas, but there is also the option to baking the normal map, but it can give you some odd results. But I'm going to try it out. Change to black and white, or if you want to do a different version, you can just go to gradient maps and select this black and white one, and it gives you quite a nice result as well. And then all you do is the same, you know, multiply, and what you get is like it's kind of a nice result, but I'm not sure if it's quite destructive or not. All I'm doing now is inversing. Yeah, it's always an idea to start playing around with anything you get inside, you know, with new texture and stuff. I don't want it to be too overpowering. Let's pull that full back. Yeah, I might just stick with the normals. They look pretty cool. I'm just going to give that a sharpen as well. Sharpen that up. It looks pretty good anyway, it looks pretty detailed and everything. Probably going to be slightly pixelated. Never ever sharpen your normal maps, because that really does pixelate as it's trying to compensate for like the lighting and stuff. I won't even need to save that, I haven't done anything to it. But I'm just going to save these out. You can sharpen the colours up. I just find that, well, maybe you can sharpen them up a little bit, but I always see it always seems like really pixelated whenever I sharpen the normal, so I've always avoided doing that now. I'm just gonna get rid of the history on this. Lambert 4 seems okay for test purposes. Maya, just your typical thing, color, hit that checkered box to plug in a file. Click file on that pop-up window, and then I'm just going to plug in the color map that we just made. I want to set this, I want to soften my normals, which I've got hotkeyed, or you know, on this custom like user bar thing, and you hit 6 on your keyboard to access your textures, and it looks pretty good. Seems to be going on okay. Everything looks fine. It looks pretty next gen. Not bad, just for a preview in Maya. You can see the problem that we see. Like I said, it was just the fact that they were so close together, but it is quite a visible area, to be honest with you, so I'm probably going to have to paint that over a little bit in Photoshop and you won't be able to tell at all. Not from first glance, but you know, you don't want to be messing around like crazily trying to fix small problems like that. Just a simple paint over will do. There's a problem inside of here as well I was having. It's nothing major, it's a simple paint over. But yeah, it looks pretty cool. let's get the normal map in there, see what it looks like. Choose the bump mapping tab, same procedure, file. An important thing about Maya is that when you're trying to view real-time bump maps, you have to change this little box here to tangent space normals, otherwise it'll just display utter shit. Now, I speak out of experience with this, because I went through university and I was using this bump. I had no idea that I was doing the wrong thing, and I was rendering, I was showing previews in Maya, and I never understood that it looks so flat and weird, and it doesn't represent my Zbrush model at all because of this single little setting. So always remember to change the tangent space normals when you're trying to view. Leave these two alone, they're irrelevant. And just run a slightly normal map. Nothing will happen so far because we need to press this button here, which will be different in the later versions of Maya. There's kind of like a yellow circle or something, and that's what it looks like with the normals applied. Looks pretty cool. All the information's coming through correctly, and it really does look pretty next gen, you know. Could do a bit more information on this area here to, you can really pull out the values a little bit. It's a bit flat around there, but it's nothing more than a simple paint over or, baking in the normal maps a little bit. But that's just from a flat bake. I haven't done anything to this. No painting, no nothing. I can do so much more to this texture in Photoshop and stuff. So, but I don't think I will, to be honest with you. I quite like this monotone skin sort of feel I'm coming through. Might add some sort of like pores, like skin pores and stuff like that. Maybe some blood on the spikes and stuff. Give that kind of gore look. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. It's not bad for the first test. Silhouette's a bit funky. I can probably smoothen that out a little bit. Make this a bit more streamlined. But that's pretty much texturing what projection is and how you get your shit out of ZBrush into Maya and real-time models and stuff. X normal is phenomenal. Alright, that's pretty much it, guys. I'm going to go ahead and finish this up now and probably, I don't know, do a little bit of video about texturing in Photoshop maybe. But it's quite similar to compositing, really. You just like laying on different. You can use practically anything. Use photographs, bits of video, whatever. It's just trying to accomplish the look that you want. But that's pretty cool. And we're on 2,700 triangles, so it's pretty fine in terms of poly count so far. Topology looks okay, looks like it's going to deform right. Legs are a bit heavy, these need to be sorted out, but I said that before. I'm just going to pause that there and go ahead and continue with this. Right, just about to take it into UDK now, proper game engine, but this is pretty much where it's at. Not really fancy, just the usual texture that I got from ZBrush, but I finished the head, got the teeth in there, and it ended up being just under 5,000 triangles, which is pretty good. There's quite a lot of detail in there. It does resemble a high-res poly sculpt, so yeah, I think it's going pretty well. I'm about to throw it into UDK now and see how it behaves. Yeah, so I'm just going to treat it as a static mesh really and just see how the surface reacts when I put the textures on. So I think I have it installed on here, so let me just check actually. There's a special exporter for UDK called, let's just see, yeah, ActorX. Just Google that if you've never heard of it. There's like a site and Wikipedia sort of thing for it. But once you've loaded up the ActorX plugin for Maya, you just type in, if I can remember correctly, yeah, it was something like, I can't remember, Xmesh or something? Nope. Crap. That was just the texture I was using for a specular map, which turned out pretty cool. Quite excited to see how that works. Actor X, Maya, command, AX main, that's the one. That's the skeleton thing. AX mesh, that's the one. Type in AX mesh into your mel command line and you'll get this pop up here. And all I want to do is when I tell it to auto triangulate, I don't need to do this. I've got no hard edges. It basically preserves, you know, like normal sort of procedures. You know, when you sort of tell Maya which edges you want to be hard, you know, where the edges. And I want it to be the selected item only. Yeah, default. I'm going to change that to my folder, but that's pretty much it really for doing a static mesh, just for testing purposes. I wish I never clicked network now, as it's tripping out. No. Desktop, right. Scrab, just leave it to game res. Export mesh, type in what you want to be, Scrab test. And that's correct. It's got one part to it, meaning it's one mesh. The amount of polygons is correct. And it has one material, which is correct. Right. That should be right. I'm going to close down Maya now. Just to so my computer can handle all this stuff. There's a bit of preparation work for UDK. This is the specular map that I was talking about. I added in a lot of that sort of leathery skin detail around, just to give it a sort of a bit of noise, a bit more interesting features. But I don't know, I think for skin, particularly on this creature, because if I have a look at the colour map, let me just turn off as well, because it had these white areas, when I made it grayscale, the white areas were very bright, and if you keep it bright for a specular map, those white sort of brighter areas are going to have a lot more sort of light information coming out on them because of the range that they're in. So when you're making a specular map, try and keep the depending on what sort of look you're going for, but try and keep it all sort of a similar range of you know, grey and blacks. Otherwise you're going to have some sort of uber shiny part to your model, so which would look weird for skin. And the way, if you never really use Photoshop for that kind of stuff, is just play around with these the shadow and highlight things. Good for keeping the range the same or getting the range the same, and using selective color as well. You can use these this white controller and slide it up and down the black. Maybe go down to neutrals as well. But if there's some sort of specific areas you're trying to get down, you can always use a burn tool. You know, switch between highlights and midtones, just to sort of burn down the surface a little bit, which is pretty useful. But yeah, that's pretty much it that I've got for the spec map, and I'm just going to do a bit of preparation work for UDK. First of all, I'm going to combine these two layers, 3 layers, copy them, just go back a step. I'm going to copy these to a new alpha channel. So now I have this colour information on sort of, you know, the main image, and in the alpha, because it was black and white, I've got this specularity map. It saves space in the game engine, and it's just a useful sort of habit to get into when you're making textures for video games, because, you know, the more space you can save, the better. I'm just going to save this again, and then I'm going to change the image size to 1024 for a 1K map, because it's big enough really. And then I'm going to save it out as a BMP. And it's just the usual file format I use for testing stuff in UDK. I'm going to call this Scrab, diffuse, and spec. Oh, if I can spell it. Bit of a weird thing, but you know, maybe just get rid of that space. Diffuse, spec, BMP, alpha channels are ticked. 32-bit, may as well. Yeah, that's saved now. That's ready to go in. Just going to get rid of that. And then I also need to change this normal map, there's going to be an interesting thing to talk about, which irritated me when I found out what was going on. But you know, that's just how 3D goes sometimes. UDK is quite a later date. I need to download the newest version of this, but for now I'm just going to save this out as a BMP as well. Scrab normals. Yeah, that's already a 1K as I was testing it out in my okay. Let's wait for UDK to load up now. We'll see how it goes. I've been in UDK for a while. Might be a bit tricky. I can't remember the nodes and stuff. It's going to be a pretty simple map. Now I'm literally just going to plug in the normal, the specular, and the diffusing, and see how that looks in the engine. It's enough for testing, for sure. I think if I ever want to present this for like portfolio, which I probably will do, I might use the what should we call it? That Monkey Labs, what's it called? Marmoset tool bag or something. So some, I don't know, just some real-time rendering engine. So anyway, this is UDK. Let's load up all its stuff. Yeah, that's good enough. Right, let me just go through the content browser. Just got one of these random packages and right click import. I just need to navigate to all my files. First of all, I'm going to load in this the mesh file, the ASE. Completely default. It's going to know what it is when it imports it, and that's going to throw it in there. Let's check that out, see how it looks. Everything seems to be fine. There's no weird backface masking happening or anything like that. Cool. Right. Now I want to import the two texture files, which I think are in test. There we go. And for the diffuse spec, I'm going to leave that as default. You have to change these compression settings. And because this is a normal map, I'm just going to go for normal map. If I had a displacement map on the alpha, or just something in the alpha channel, you'd have to go for normal map alpha. But because mine's just a normal map by itself, just go for normal map. Pretty self-explanatory. The way you texture things, or apply your textures into UDK, is you've got to make a new material sort of, I guess, package. I don't know how to word it. And you can do it by right clicking texture you want to use and just create new material. Simple as that. I'm just going to call this one Scrab Map, and that's going to give you this, which you double click to open up, and you're into this sort of material window. And I'm going to take this black thing, means all, red, green, blue. Let's plug that into the diffuse, and you can see now that you're getting some color information coming through. I'm going to plug that into the spec and see what I get. Now, if I remember correctly, there is a way to preview that. If I click this arrow, I probably should have resized my model in thingy. Looks a bit flat, but I haven't got the normals on yet. So, and if you select a file in this content browser, and you hold T here, and just click, it'll bring it straight in, which is nice. I'm just going to plug that into the normals as well now. Yeah, that specularity map seems a bit too mental, so I might have to tone that down a little bit. It's a bit shiny. Just save that a sec. It's a bit white. I'm just gonna apply this material to this model or mesh using this information here. Define material. Same. This green arrow sort of like is a pretty major thing in UDK. It usually does a lot of stuff, but it's looking a bit too shiny for my liking. But you know, it looks pretty cool. All the information's coming through correctly. Just mess around in here for a little bit. I just held number 1 down, and that gives you a constant value. And I'm going to do a material multiply thing as well, and I'm just going to plug that in to here like this. I've got a bit of control over this spec. Like I can now sort of multiply that by however much I want. If you hold L as well in this preview window, you can sort of scrub around the light a little bit. I think there may be a way if we maybe plug that colour into there as well. I do remember their way being like you could sort of do like a specularity map, but using the color information somehow. I can't remember the way that it was done. Might try another multiply procedure. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been in UDK, so I'm a bit sort of all novice style. Just type in the number, see what we get coming through. Doesn't seem like anything's happening now. Just gonna revert back to what I had, to be honest with you. It doesn't look very nice, so it has that sort of plasticky kind of feel to it. Just plug in. Let's see how it looks like in the thingy window. Well, it's gotten rid of that horrible sort of whiteness on its knee, which is nice. But I want a little bit of specularity going through. Let me bunk up this number a little bit. Oh, that's why there's no number. That's ridiculous. Let me just undo that and create a new constant. Getting the specular bar. The specular power is sort of like the tightness of the specularity, but that's really it's gone back down. It's really not giving me what I want. You can see a little bit coming through now. 0.35. Okay. Let me see how that looks in game. This is such a mess. I forgot to because the way it's pulled into UDK is like how it's positioned in Maya, but I think that looks pretty cool. Specularity seems okay. It's a little bit pixelated. But I think it works. think with a little bit more research into how to set up some sort of complicated shader network in UDK, I could probably make this look a bit better, but I think it's quite successful, really. Yeah. 1K maps. I think it looks pretty good. I haven't really done anything with the lighting as well, I suppose. If I was just set up my own sort of thing. Yeah, pretty pleased with that. I just need to think of a way to make it more presentable, I guess. But I think before I do that, I'm going to download the latest version of UDK. And I'll probably just put together like some sort of weird scene using, you know, just standard UDK stuff. But it works. However, let me just check out something here. So apparently in UDK, I can't really see any problems, which is weird. So you usually have to inverse the green. Yeah, there's a little bit there. You know, you can see this sort of really uber obvious seam. Let me just try it. So I was told that sometimes you have to inverse the green channel in your normal map for it to work well in UDK. So it might be the red. No, it can't be right. Maybe the blue. Nope. Yeah, it might be the red. Let me just try that out. Just gonna save directly over that normal file that we had. Get this content browse back up. Just right click on this and then type in just press re-import texture, and it's gonna pick up any sort of changes you've made. But let's just see what that is done. Yeah, it's fixed it. It's weird that, because you know where that seam was and it was really obvious. Now it's sort of smoothed out a little bit. It seems to have flipped the detail though. Oh man. Or was that just my eyes? Nah, it's definitely flipped it. That's no good. Let me just flip that back. This may take a bit of research as well. Yeah, definitely sort of, you know, when stuff's supposed to be bumping out, it sort of bumped it in. But that is a bit of a problem. Let me try a different channel. What was that? That was red. Just seeing when I flipped this green channel. No, that's really obviously. Let me try that. Right, this is it with the inverse green channel. Let's see what this gives us. Now I'm watching this seam here. I want to see what happens when I re-import this. Let's see what happens. It's a little bit smoother. It's a little bit nicer. You can only see when you're uber zoomed in. Yeah, I think that's kind of worked. Might have been the green channel. Yeah, you can barely notice the seam on his back, which is nice. yeah, but that's all it is. So if you're using X normal for UDK, always flip the green channel. Well, that's pretty much it for this. Probably gonna have to figure out a way to make this presentable for my portfolio, but that is pretty much project done. You know, finished, completely ready for an animation game model. The Scrab. I need to think of my next project now. I'm considering doing a Pokemon, but making it all sort of like brutal and stuff. Or the huge behemoth project I mentioned. You know, I'm gonna probably just go look at like a poster full of all the Pokemon and see what's cool. But project finito.